as a mother, I know the weight of wanting to leave the best for our kids and do the best for our kids. Maya, you have shown me how to do it, to not just dream for a future that we want, but to fight for it with everything I've got. Your work is the foundation upon which we continue to build. I'm grateful to have brought the Green Amendment to Waterspirit years ago, and it's a foundation that will stand strong long after we are gone. I promise you, the next generation will carry this fight forward. We will ensure that the legacy you've built will endure, and we will continue to stand alongside you, honoring your hard work, your dedication, and your ever-growing love for all children and Sacred Earth. Thank you for everything you've done, everything you continue to do every day. We are an eco-spiritual nonprofit, and we pray. And sometimes prayer looks like written word and ritual and space for contemplation in silence. Also, prayer is action. Thank you for this action.
Everybody at my table is sick and tired of hearing from me because I've been saying the whole evening I'm really nervous about this talk because it's not my usual, right? Like normally I get up and people say, tell us about an issue about pipelines or fracking or green amendments or how to save the Atlantic sturgeon. And, and I can get up and, proudly do that advocacy and come forth with my facts and my figures and the pathway forward. But today is different because I was given my prompts. And my prompts are very different, and my prompts are really more about talking about my belief system and sharing it with you, and a little bit about my family. I wrote my prompts down. I do have words. But my prompts were to share my personal and spiritual connection to the Delaware River and nature, and to share a little bit of my inspiration from my ancestors. So it's all quite personal. And everybody at my table knows if this is boring, I want a signal, and I'll stop. And we'll just do Q&A, and you'll ask me questions about issues, and then I'll be like back on ball. But I'm going to try to share with you some of my thoughts and my thinking, and hopefully it will resonate with you and it will mean something to you. But I really, as I said, I think that this award to me is special because it does, come with such love and appreciation for the work that I have done and that I believe in so much. But I think it also comes with an appreciation and a respect and a love for what nature does to inspire the work that we all do here in this room, right? It's an award that's much bigger than a person. It's an award that's about the earth and how we work with our earth. Before I came here tonight, literally before I walked into this room, thought some people might be watching me out the window, I did what I always do. I find a piece of nature to connect with. If I can, I go to my beautiful Delaware River. Before I left my home, I went to a little stream that's next to the new home that we just moved into, or I try to find a tree, and I try to connect with that beautiful piece of nature, put my hand in the water. Here I touch the sand, and then I put the sand up to my lips, and then I got a mouthful of sand, and I had to rinse my mouth out. But I do that because I want to make sure that when I come up to speak, when I come up to share, when I go to advocate, when I speak at a press conference, when I give a talk, when I'm leading a rally, whatever it is I'm doing, to make sure that it's not about me, that I'm not speaking and saying what I want to say, but I am working to share with the audience, whoever that is, what nature needs for me to say, what nature needs for the audience to hear. I ask nature to give me, please share with me your strength, your inspiration, your words, your wisdom. Those are literally the words I speak to nature, and I give her a kiss, and hopefully I get a kiss. I get a kiss back. And I do this because I do feel a very deep connection to nature. I really believe, I tell children this a lot, I really believe that nature speaks to us. It speaks to us, of course, for people like the people in this room, it speaks to us through our hearts and through connection and through our souls. But it also literally speaks through sign language, right? And its signs are happy and healthy forests and streams and wildlife and schools of fish. or its signs are devastating erosion and devastating pollution and fish kills and not non-natural storm events. And the key is that we need to have people that can read the signs, translate it into words, and bring it into our human communities so that nature, who doesn't otherwise have a voice in a space like this, does have a voice because we are channeling its words, we are channeling its message, we are channeling its wisdom. And I think that, so I think it's important. I connect with nature to make sure I'm delivering nature's message. But I also connect with nature, as I said, to make sure that it's not about me when I'm speaking. Because I think that when you do environmental advocacy, it is so easy to get wrapped up into me. A reporter calls you. Do you have a quote? Oh, what does Maya think? Or will you come speak? Oh, boy, I must be important, right? It's really very quickly. I think a lot of, I see a lot of young advocates. They come and they're doing the work for that, I don't want to say for the right reason, but because it is about nature and it's just about doing the work. But then you can see for some over time how it becomes about their self-importance and about their message and about, I want to be the one in the press. I want to have my picture taken. And suddenly the focus shifts. And the work is no longer really about advancing nature, but it's more about advancing one's ego. It's more about trying to get money for the budget, right? And I think that can so easily happen. And I do think, I don't think ego is a bad thing. Right? You have to have an ego to be a good advocate. You have to have an ego when you're nervous about a talk and get up and still try to deliver it, like what I'm doing right now. Right? You have to have an ego. If you go into a hearing room and you know that everybody in that hearing room, not everybody, a whole bunch of people in that hearing room hate you. They hate you and they hate what you're going to say. They don't even know you when they hate you. You have to have some level of ego. You have to have a lot of love for nature and a lot of love for your message, but you have to have some ego that gets you to stand up, walk to the front of the room, deliver that message, walk back, even when people hit you in the face and hit you in the arm and kick you, and that has all happened to me on the way back down the aisle, right? But so ego can help drive you to do what you need to do when you're an environmental advocate. But you have to, as an advocate, and this is what I try to tell young advocates, you have to love nature enough to check your ego at the door, right? Am I doing this strategy? Am I calling this reporter? Am I holding this meeting because it's what nature needs me to do, or it's because what I and my ego want to do? And so I think that that's a really important part of advocacy work, and I think connecting with nature before I walk into a room and speak helps me make sure that I do that. I'm going to share a little bit about my philosophy that I don't talk about very much. Annika knows about it. My daughter Annika is here. So I actually believe, I suspect you all believe this, maybe not. I have a very firm belief that everybody is born with that connection to nature, loving nature, feeling that heart connection and that soul connection. It's why kids, when they're walking down the street, stop to look at the butterfly or the flower, right? It's why they love animals so much. It's why when they see a hurt bird or a rabbit or a squirrel that was hit by the car, the young child wants to go and help it and save it and care for it, while mom or dad are saying, we've got to get to the appointment. Come on, keep going. It's just a bird. It's just a squirrel. It's just a rabbit. We got to keep going. But the child wants to stay and care, right? Because the child has that natural connection right from the second they're born. And then I think what happens is as children grow into little people, right? And into bigger people, what they start to hear in that message and that messaging is they start to hear the pain that nature feels. The pain that nature feels from all of the things that we are inflicting upon her. And that as people grow, that pain, that call of pain from nature gets louder and louder. And for some people, they can't stand it. right? And they're angry with nature, and so they do horrible things to nature, and the politicians and the industry leaders that are just inflicting assault after assault after assault on nature. I think at some level they're responding to that pain and that anger that has built up in them over time. How dare you demand me to do better? How dare you demand me to make a sacrifice to care for you? I will not do it. Instead, I will shut you up. I think that there are a group of people like that. I think there are a group of people as they grow and they hear nature. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. Right, and so they shut down and they shut off. And like the emotion is gone. They don't have that connection anymore. I do admit there are moments and times where I feel like I don't feel like I'm connecting with the tree now, or I'm connecting with the river. Why not? And I feel that there are times when the pain, I hear the pain so loudly, I just need a moment of breath. If I don't get angry, I take a moment of breath. And then I think that there's a group of people like the people in this room, where you hear that pain, consciously or unconsciously, it feeds on you and it touches you. And your response is to want to help and heal it. Just like the child, you want to go scoop up the crying child, right, and make it better. Well, you want to go and do that. You want to scoop up nature and you want to make it better. And that's how we get advocates. And that's how we get activists. And that's how we get people who write letters or make donations or come to important gatherings like this, right, to commune with others who care about nature and to share and think about strategies and ideas. And I think that the love overtakes the hearing of pain, and that we all work together to heal nature. And I think that's how we get such powerful advocates of all different levels, right? We all do it in our own different way. But I think that's one reason why we have so many incredible advocates, because they're people like you who are willing to hear the pain or feel the pain. And again, for some, it's not conscious. Maybe now it will be conscious to you because maybe I just pointed out something that you hadn't thought about. The other thing was to talk a little bit about my inspiration for why I do what I do and how I do what I do. And I think the first thing that I have to acknowledge is I don't actually think that I chose to be an activist. I don't think that was a choice that I made. I think that I literally believe that I was placed here on this earth because this is what I was meant to do, to fight for the earth every single day, day in, day out, no matter how hard it is. I think it's who I am. When I was a child, my earliest memories were about standing up on the elementary school playground for people who were being bullied. I remember there was a girl, I won't share her name, but people used to call her Waterworks. Every day they would come up to her, call her Waterworks, and say mean things, because as soon as they did it, she would start to cry. And for me, the second I saw that, my obligation, I don't know, whatever it was, I just literally stood up and placed myself between the bully and her. And yes, it made elementary school uncomfortable. And no, I didn't have many friends then, but she was my friend. I remember my other earliest memories in elementary school was there was an art room with big glass panes, and it would stick out of the wall, like these big glass panes. And at least once a week, a bird would fly into the window and die. And I would go out as a child and I would cry for that bird. And I would want to care for that bird. And a nice teacher would always give me a shovel to bury the bird. I had to bury the bird. And I remember one day, though, it was a beautiful red cardinal. Came in, hit the window, fell down and died. And I was out there crying for the bird. And I don't know why this day was different, but nobody would help me bury the bird. And the teacher, maybe my teacher was out. The teacher got the principal to come, Mr. Warnick. Mr. Warnick, he had big, slick black hair, slicked, it was all greased back, and he had big black shoes. They may not have been big black shoes, but I remember them. They seemed big and black to me because he came to me and he said, "You have to go to class." And I said, "No," and I even remember his name. I don't remember anybody's name from school. Ask Annika. Mr. Warnick. And I said, "No, I have to bury the bird." And, it was a big tension. And all I was doing was I was looking down at these big black shoes. And he kept telling me I had to go back to class and I couldn't have the shovel. And I kept crying and saying, "I have to have the shovel. I have to bury the bird." And do you know what happened? Mr. Warnick gave me the shovel, and I buried the bird. And so in those elementary school experiences, I learned if you stand up to the bullies or if you fight for what you believe in and you keep going, you can make a difference. But I learned early the value and the importance of standing up for what you believe in. But it came like it was just part of who I was. So I did it, but then I learned from doing it. Like what happens, the success that you can achieve. And as I grow older, there are many, many issues I care about. But I realized that for me, my calling was to fight for the earth. And so that's what I started to do, and I have done throughout the entirety of my life. So it's who I am. But I think that also part of my skill set is learned from my own experiences, but also learned from the wonderful people I have in my life. My mother. My mother was from Holland. She was not an advocate at all. She just lived what she believed. She didn't go to meetings and speak out. She lived what she believed. My mother had cloth bags and rode her bike to the store and took a coffee mug of coffee in the car with no lids. We didn't have travel mugs then, in order not to, have any sort of throwaway thing. She did that way before everybody. And she was a college professor, and she would have her coffee mug, and sometimes she would arrive with her beautiful white shirt covered in coffee, and then she would have to teach her students, But she did it because it's what she believed in. But the other thing that she did was she noticed, I don't know when she noticed this because I was a little child, but this was a time when people would rake up their leaves, put them in great big black plastic bags and put them out for trash. And my mother thought that was horrifying. So my mother did not go and advocate and, rant. She didn't do anything. What my mother did was every Saturday and every Sunday, she took our VW van and she drove around the neighborhood and she picked up those big plastic bags and she shoved them into our VW van literally till it was overstuffed, and she brought those bags of leaves home and she dumped them out in our garden or in the forest or something, and then she carefully folded up the bags and she reused them. Right? And the people would come out of their houses, and so I was always invited to join her. And I didn't always say yes, but sometimes I did because I loved my mother and I just wanted to be with her, and this was a chance to be with her, right? So, but sometimes I would just sit in the car because I would see the homeowner come out. What's this woman doing, stealing my trash, or sometimes they would even say, like, what are you doing? But what did my mother do? She didn't get ashamed and run away or anything. She would go, oh, hello, I'm just here gathering the leaves to make good compost, right? And it was like this great warm, and they didn't know what to do. They were like, what do I do with this lady? But it was a great sharing of an educational message, and then doing what she knew was right. And over the years, I didn't become reticent about going with my mom, and I didn't embarrassedly sit in the van. I got out. At first I'd get out and I would stand like behind the van, and I would and I would help when she got the bag to the van, then I would help push it in. But I didn't go out. But over time, I went up to the curb and I got the leaves with her, and I was so proud. And then when I got my own home and my own garden, I started to do the same thing. And when I had my own daughter sitting right over there, I put her in my car and we drove around and we had the whole experience again. You'll have to ask her if she was embarrassed in the beginning. But I will tell you, I know she early came out, and she was so happy to help stuff those bags until I picked up a bag that was filled with dog poop. But and then, municipalities got smart and people stopped doing that, so we don't do that anymore. But so I learned from my mom. Live what you believe, do what you believe, and you make a difference. And use every opportunity as an educational moment, and just keep. And if they don't want to hear you, and they don't care, and they want to sneer at you, who cares? You keep doing what you believe and you'll make a difference. And then I learned about my Opa. My Opa, who lived in Holland during World War II. I want to tell you about 2 more people in my family. No, I have to tell you about my husband and my daughter. My Opa, in World War II in Eindhoven, Holland, he was an accountant. in Eindhoven. Very well-respected man. And it was at a time the Germans were occupying Holland. And they were coming around to everybody's houses to take their sons, to put them to work, right? To kill the Jews or go in the army. And Opa knew that they were going to be coming to his house. So he told his sons, he was a father of 13. Whoa, very prolific with his parts. And he sent his sons away. Said, don't come back. And the Germans came to his door. And they asked for his sons. And they said, they will not go with you. They're not here. And the Germans said to him, we're going to be back tomorrow, and your sons better be here. And if your sons aren't here, for us to take them, we're going to take you. And the Germans came back the next day. And my Opa told his sons, don't come home. And the Germans came, and his sons weren't there. And they took my Opa, and they took him to jail. Nobody had any idea, right? They were hauling people off, sending them to horrifying places, and that's where Opa could have gone. But Opa knew it was wrong for his children to be used in this horrifying way, this hurtful way towards other people. And so he said no, and the Germans took him, and they put him in jail. And then after a couple of days, as the story goes, the Germans realized that my Opa was a very well-respected man in Eindhoven. And they felt that if they kept him in jail, that it would cause others in Eindhoven to rise up. And they didn't want that. So they actually let Opa go. And he was sent home. And he was alive and well. And I have another relative, my Tante Truus. And her husband was Oom Joop. And we only learned, the whole family only learned years later. Has anybody ever read Last Train to London? It's a great book. It's a historic fiction. You should read it. It's about my Tante Truus. It tells the story of the many, many ways how my Tante Truus, over many years, putting herself at great risk with the support of my Oom Joop, but mainly Tante Truus, literally saved 10,000 children from the Jewish death camps. She would go into Germany, she would get papers, she would manufacture ways to bring the children over the border to safety, even once hiding them under her skirts as she was driving in a car when the Germans came to question her about why she was there. She had little children hidden under her skirts. Amazing woman. So I feel, when I think about this idea of why protecting the earth being part of my calling, maybe it's in my DNA, right? Like maybe it's part of that. But I'm really honored that I didn't know my Opa did those things. I didn't know my Tante Truus did those things in my head, but I must have known in my soul and in my heart, and I think it made a difference. And then the only final thing in terms of inspiration is it's really, really hard. Like I said, sometimes to do this work, very frustrating. People can be very, very mean, and usually I don't care, but sometimes somebody, hits a moment, or it can be very frustrating when the donors don't donate, or people won't change their action or activity, and I will literally be crumpled in a corner crying. And 3 people help me in those moments. My husband, if he's home, he comes up and he hugs me. And then he says, Maya, you have to do this. You have to, and I'll say, I can't do it anymore. It's so hard. It's new. People won't listen, whatever. And he says, no, you have to. And he talks about people in history who have done beautiful things in movements, people he reveres. And he says, Maya, this is your movement. This is your legacy. This is your moment. Nobody will do it the way you do it. Nobody will love it the way you love it. You have to do it. And he literally picks me up and he hugs me. And things calm down. And I keep going. And if he's not home, inevitably my daughter is there. And Annika does it differently. Annika's an advocate, right? Because she's now an environmental advocate too. She's awesome. And she's so inspiring in her own right. And she'll advocate to me, Mom, you have to do it. You're so good at this. If you don't do it, nobody will do it. But her tone and her voice, and she gives me examples and all the different things I do, and she advocates me back to lifting my spirits so I keep going. And she uses her advocacy, spirit and heart and mind, and that makes a difference. And I scoop myself up and I keep going. And then there's my son, who's 19, almost 20, 18, almost 19. Yeah, 18, almost 19. And he'll see me crumpled in the corner. And he'll walk out of the room. He's got nothing to say. But then hours later, when I've been picked up, or the next day, he just will walk up to me and give me a hug. And he says, "I love you, Mom." And he walks away. And so, I have so many people in my history and in my life that inspire me and that make a difference. But chief among them are nature, because it is an honor to do what I do. Even as hard as it gets, it is an honor to be able to get up every single day and fight for the beautiful earth that you love and to fight for what you believe in. And people like you. I get to come to places and spaces and moments like these and share it with people like you who care as deeply as I do. You are all champions, and I appreciate you so very, very much. And I get to go to work with an amazing group of colleagues at Delaware Riverkeeper Network and Green Amendments for the Generations that are as passionate as you and as passionate as me. Because none of us do this alone, right? We all do this together. So thank you for coming together this evening. And it doesn't look like anybody fell asleep, but maybe you wanted to.